Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the April book club book, which was The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. And I'm so interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Comment down below all of your thoughts, if you loved it, if you hated it, why you liked it, why you didn't, your favorite characters, all of the details of your reading experience. I want to know it all. Go down and talk with each other. That's what I want this to be. I want it to be like a forum where me and all of my subscribers can kind of create a community around our book club, and I want you guys to get to know each other and things like that. I think it'd be really fun. So this is the book club book for April, and I liked it. I really liked this book. Now, there were things about this book that I absolutely loved, and there was also this very specific thing about this book that really irked me, that really rubbed me the wrong way, and it almost bumped this book down to a 4-star rating because it bothered me that bad. And the longer I think about books, sometimes I'll go back and I'll change my ratings, but I have to think about the book a lot to do that. And actually in my upcoming wrap-up for April and March, I have a book that I'm actually changing a rating for, and you guys are going to be really surprised by it. But this always happens to me. Like, I'll think about a book for a longer period of time. Like, the longer I think about it, the more clear my rating becomes in my mind. Right now, this book is a 5-star rating for me. I really liked it for a few reasons. Now, I think that this book is one of those books where you have to kind of read it at the right time, because I could see how people wouldn't like this book, but I could also see how people would really love this book, but it depends on what you're looking for at the time, if that makes sense. So I'm going to kind of talk about why this book worked really well for me right now, and with everything that we're going through in the world and how crazy it's been. This book was like such a good book to read, and I'm going to explain why. A quick synopsis is basically, it's about a girl who comes from kind of a high society family, but she's the younger daughter, and she is so tired of her older daughter getting all the attention. Her older sister is kind of favored by her father, and Alessandria, the younger sister, the main character in this book, is just tired of it, and she is kind of a rambunctious girl. Like, she's not like everyone else in the world, and I know that sounds very like, she's not like other girls. It's kind of like that, yes, but she sleeps around, she has a lot of, you know, guys that fall in love with her and propose to her. She's not trying to save herself for marriage or anything like that, and her dad really looks down on her for that. But she is really good at making people fall in love with her. She is really good at snagging a guy, getting them to propose, buying her a ring, and then just dropping them and saying, no, I don't want to marry you. And that's kind of like her shtick. And her goal is to wow the Shadow King. And she wants to marry the Shadow King because no woman can do it. People have tried, women have tried, and nobody can wow the Shadow King. And her goal is to get to the kingdom and get him to fall in love with her, then marry him, and then kill him so she can take over his kingdom and rule. So she's kind of not the greatest character, but the thing about her is she knows she's not the greatest character. She knows she's not a good person, but she owns it. And that's why I love Alessandria in this book. Is it's not like the author was trying to write a good character but failed. It's like she's just a Slytherin, and she knows it, you know, and she's just like, this is who I am. And I really like that about it. So that's kind of the plot line, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the characters and all that kind of thing, because I think the characters are always such a key part to the story. So like I said, Alessandria, she, like I said, is not a good person, but I loved it. What this felt like to me was like a villain's origin story. Like, it truly feels like Alessandria is a villain, and it's like the beginning stages of her, you know, villainous reign as like a queen, if that makes sense. And that's why I love this. And the thing that I liked is that she really just wrote her character to be that way. She wasn't, you know, writing Alessandria to have this big growth or big character arc where she becomes like a good person in the end. She went all out with her, and I love that because it felt so deliberate, and it made you kind of accept who she was and just kind of see where the story takes you, and I really like that. Leandros. So I was very torn with Leandros through this whole story. So I knew that Leandros was gonna be some kind of weird character. Like, I felt deep down that Leandros wasn't just this weird side love interest guy. I was like, there's a reason why he's very much in this story, and he's like a key component. There's a purpose for him. And so I kind of feel like in a certain way the story was a little bit predictable, not fully predictable, like I couldn't really put the pieces together, but I knew Leandros was going to come into the story and the twist at the end. It just made sense to me, you know what I mean? I could just feel it. But at the same time, I liked Leandros. Like, there was something about him that was very charming throughout the whole story. Like, I kept kind of thinking, like, he's such a good guy, and I kind of felt like, yes, he's very flirty, which is fine. Like, there's guys that are very, very flirty, and it could be taken as like cringy or like too forward, but he just came across as a very flirty guy, which there's nothing wrong with flirtatious. But he just seemed very sweet to me for the most of the book, and so I was like, I like him, but I feel like I shouldn't like him. So I was kind of torn with that because it felt like I shouldn't, but I did. And so I felt like Leandros was a good character in that way because I felt like I was torn with him. Now, the one thing I didn't like about this book, and two characters I didn't like, was Hestia and Rhoda. I could not tell these two chicks apart for the life of me. Like, I couldn't. They were like the same character, in my opinion. I couldn't figure out who was who. Like, I knew one of them had a pixie cut through the whole story, but I couldn't ever remember which one had the pixie cut. And so through the whole story, I was just like, I couldn't tell those two characters apart. They just felt so similar. She wrote them to be very kind of one-dimensional, very bland. Like, I wish she made one of them like very peppy and cute, and then maybe the other one more like tough and, you know, like gave them very extreme personalities so they kind of popped off the page more, but I just couldn't get into those characters. I felt like they were super boring, super bland, super one-dimensional. I do feel like some of the side characters in this story were one-dimensional, not just Hestia and Rhoda, but some of the other characters as well, like the guy characters. I can't even remember what their names were, but they were like Leandros' friends. I couldn't really tell them apart. I kind of just kept forgetting like who they were in the story. I don't know if any of you guys felt that way, but she could have done a little bit better with the side characters, I feel like. So with Callias, or Callias, it's Callias, I did not like him at first. I was like, ugh, I don't know if I like this character, but I knew what she was going to do with him. Like, I knew what her plan was going to be, and so I kept an open mind with Callias or Callias. I keep wanting to call him Callias. Callias. I liked kind of his arc, but I also really liked Callias in that he was very much like Alessandria. He was unapologetically not the best person, and he didn't really have a arc either. Like, he didn't grow as a person, and the reason they got along so good was because they're both similar in that way, and so meeting each other, they were able to be that way together, and I liked that. I liked that they connected over their gray morality. I thought that that was very interesting, and I liked it. So one thing that I kind of thought was going to happen is that Alessandria had this plan to go to the kingdom, get Callias to fall in love with her, and then she was going to kill him. That was her plan, and she was going to hold that through the entire time. But what I was predicting was that Callias was going to actually have a plan kind of similar to hers. I wasn't sure what that plan was going to be, but I thought the story was going to switch. Like, I thought that he was actually going to get her to fall in love with him, even though she was going to try really hard not to because she had her own plan. But he was going to actually flip the switch and make her fall in love with him, and then he was going to end up using her and use her for some sort of bigger plan. Like, I thought there was going to be like this big flip in dynamics, and it ended up not really going that way. I mean, he did kind of use her, but she was aware of him using her. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I feel like I like the story so much when I could understand why people maybe wouldn't like this story. So what I loved about this is that it was a fantasy, but it was not complicated. So I love a good complicated fantasy. I love a good fantasy that's really long, has a lot of world building, like huge complicated magic systems and politics. But sometimes I don't want that. And right now, with what is going on in the world, I just can't do that complicated stuff right now. My mind just can't stay focused. I did Crescent City, which was good, and I got through that, but it was still a little bit difficult for me to really focus. And so I've been wanting something like this that is simple. This does not have the best world building in it. And if you are looking for that, you're not gonna get it with this book. And I feel like, for me, the fact that it didn't have any world building, that's what made it so good for me right now, because I didn't want that. I didn't want to have to deal with trying to keep everything straight and all like the details. And so if you're looking for a good fantasy that's simple, that doesn't have that insane world building, then you'll like this. But if you are looking for the world building and stuff, you won't like this. So it's kind of about what you're looking for in the moment. Like, I kind of felt like I was reading like a fantasy, like soap opera to a certain degree. Like, some of the stuff was kind of petty. It was kind of simple. I kind of felt like there was a lot of drama going around in this little kingdom, and Alessandria was kind of like the main person behind it all. It was what it was, and I liked it for that reason, and I really appreciated Trisha Levenseller's ability to make the story really interesting without the insane world building that you usually get with fantasy. She kind of feels like Sarah J. Maas without the lengthy world building, which is great because I love like the romance, I love kind of all of that kind of stuff that Sarah J. Maas has, but when I'm not in the mood for that insane world building, this gave me what I get with a Sarah J. Maas type of novel, which I loved. But with that said, I will say that it felt a little bit too Sarah J. Maasy to me at times. It almost felt like she pulled some key points from Sarah J. Maas's novels and put them in here. Like the whole shadows around him was very Azrael. Yes, the shadows did different things, but literally the Shadow King was Azrael. You know what I mean? Like the way he looked, the way he had shadows all around him and all that kind of stuff, very Azrael. He didn't have wings, but you know. And then also the part where they're in the, what is it, like a brothel, and she has to pretend that she is like trying to get Callias to like hook up with her, so they have to kind of like, she has to pretend basically that she is a prostitute and she's trying to get him, and it felt, because she had to like sit on his lap and like do all that kind of stuff, it felt very Court of Nightmares to me. You know that scene where she has to sit on Reese's lap? It is completely that scene. The only difference is it's like in a brothel versus the Court of Nightmares. So there were certain aspects of this book that felt like they were pulled from A Court of Mist and Fury. Not that I'm complaining, because I love that book, but it did feel kind of knocked off at certain points. I did like that the romance was pretty slow burn. It wasn't like a insta-lovey type of thing. He was very attracted to her and she was kind of attracted to him, but it wasn't insta-love. I felt like there was a pretty good slow burn thing going on, but it is YA, so you're not going to get like those good hookup scenes or anything like that, which is always kind of a disappointment. But I just love the short, sweet aspect of this. It was quick. It makes me want to read more Trisha Levenseller. She's just definitely up my alley as far as what I like in an author. Romance, fantasy, but I like that it's quick and to the point when I'm not in the mood for that world building. And I think Trisha Levenseller might be my girl for that, when I want a fantasy, but I don't want something really complicated. Now, the one thing that really bothered me about this book, we're going to talk a little bit about the twist. So this is what really bugged me, and I was like, what? Like, that makes no sense. And it pissed me off because it was so, like, illogical and just weird. So Leandros ended up being Callias's brother that died when he was young. And then, like, soon after, Leandros moves into the kingdom, and he had a crooked nose because he had gotten his nose broken. So he had a crooked nose, and he dyed his hair blonde. So, because of that, nobody knew that Leandros was actually Callias's brother that died. And the thing was, is it's not like he came back to the kingdom when he was older. It's not like 15 years had passed since they'd seen him. No, he died, and then while they were still young, he moved back into the kingdom undercover as Leandros. You're telling me that Callias and Callias's mother and father would not realize that that was actually Callias's brother? Their son? Like, no. Travis, if he walked into this house right now with a crooked nose and his hair dyed blonde, I can guarantee you it would still be Travis. I would be able to tell from his mannerisms, the way he spoke, the way he is, the way he looks, everything about him would still be Travis. Like, just because his hair was blonde would not make him a different person. Just because his nose was crooked would not make him a different person, especially because it wasn't that long of a time between when he died and when he came back to the palace as Leandros. So it makes no sense. Like, that made me mad because I'm like, you're telling me that a mother wouldn't be able to tell that was her son? Ugh. And on top of that too, like, because of what happened to Leandros, I wasn't fully not on his side. I was like, his father was a horrible human being. Horrible. He didn't have Callias's power, so he just kicked him to the curb and was like, bye, and just basically left him to die. Like, Leandros, like, is pissed. I would be pissed too. I mean, is it right to go and kill your brother and your parents? No, but still, like, it makes you feel for Leandros, you know what I mean? But the other thing that kind of bothered me about this story was Callias's like need to apologize to Alessandria. So at the very end, Alessandria leaves because he kicks her out. He's like, you were going to kill me this entire time. That is totally a reason to kick somebody out of your palace when you find out that they were going to kill you. Like, she even admits to it. She's like, yeah, that was my plan. I was going to kill you and take over your kingdom. And he's like, okay, bye. Like, he kicks her out. He's like, get out of my palace, get out of my castle. Like, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. And I was kind of like, that's logical. Like, if you found out somebody was planning to kill you, you would kick them out. Like, that was not a big deal to me. I wasn't like, oh my god, Alessandria, because I knew they were going to end up getting back together probably. But then, of course, he goes back after her. Like, she comes back and she like fights off Leandros and stuff like that, and then she like leaves again and goes to Hestia's, you know, house or whatever. And then Callias comes back to come get her. Why was Callias so apologetic to Alessandria? As if he was in the wrong. Like, he kept saying, like, I'm so sorry, like, I'm so sorry I kicked you out, it's like my fault, and he's like apologizing and just like it's his fault that what happened, and I'm like, you should not be apologizing. Alessandria should be apologizing. She's the one that came into your castle, made you fall in love with her, was planning to kill you, had poison to kill you. Why are you apologizing to her? She's the one that should be apologizing to you. Like, what? And it kind of made me mad because it just made me like dislike Alessandria more. And she's like, it's okay. Like, I was supposed to believe that he should be sorry when he shouldn't have been sorry. Like, it seemed like a really weird dynamic. And she's like, it's okay, I forgive you. For what? Kicking you out of the palace for wanting to murder him? Like, what? But you know, I did like that they were together because I think it makes sense, right? They're both morally gray characters, and they both want to run the kingdom the same. You know what I mean? They have the same plan, they have the same idea, they have the same like unhealthy Enneagram 3 behavior, and it just makes sense that they would be together, you know? Are they going to rule these lands the best? Probably not. Are they going to make poor decisions? Are they kind of a little bit on the evil side to a certain degree? Sure, but that's why they fit together. Yeah, it's not good that they're like the king and queen, but still, it makes sense that they're together in this weird way. Like, I liked that. I liked that they ended up together because it makes sense. But I don't know. I liked how this book was written because of that. Because we were reading about two slightly villainous characters, but in a very unapologetic way. That is my overall review of this book. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, I did have annoyances with this book. That whole twist kind of threw me off, but I still liked it. It was still super entertaining. I didn't want to put it down. I was entertained by the romance, and it was one of those books that, yes, some things bother you, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that you enjoyed yourself while reading it. And I think that's important when you are recommending books or rating books. If you liked it, if you liked the process of reading it, rate it on that, because the reason we read as human beings is to enjoy ourselves, and I enjoyed myself while reading this book. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Now I'm going to announce to you guys what the book for May is going to be. So let me get it out. It's right behind me. So I'm kind of on a romance kick, if you guys didn't notice. But I'm always on a romance kick. Like, I'm a romance girl, I enjoy it, and I've heard such freaking fantastic things about this next book. I'm so excited to read it because I think it sounds so good, and it is Lovely War by Julie Berry. So this book is about two romances. I think one takes place during World War I, one takes place during World War II. But the thing about these romances is they're being narrated by, I think, Aphrodite and Apollo? Is it Aphrodite? I believe so. So the narrators are like gods and goddesses, and I think that sounds really fascinating. I remember going through this short phase, I think it was in 6th grade. We started learning about like Greek mythology and things like that, and I remember getting super into it with one of my friends. We loved it. We ended up doing like this play about like Hades and Persephone and stuff like that. It was really fun, but I think this sounds really, really interesting, and I love romance, and Greek mythology is always really, really interesting, so I'm excited to read read this. I think it's going to be good. So let me know if you guys are going to join me in reading this for May, and let me know also in the comments below what other books that you want to see for future months for the book club. I'm really interested to see what you guys want to read, and I think that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys in my next one. It's probably going to be my wrap up for April and March. So I hope you guys like this, and I'll talk to you soon.